All right, we're on the last page of your 10F notes. Up here at the top, you may want to highlight, underline, put some stars here. If you're solving algebraically, they're going to give you an equation with both an x and a y. And as I mentioned on the previous page, part A, that's an important part. Substitute 0 in for the y value. So for example, on number 1, it says y equals negative 3x plus 6. Just change that out, make it 0 equals negative 3x plus 6. And then step B and C, this is just solving the equation. You might want to pay a special attention on questions like 3 and 7. Those are absolute values. And then some of your bottom ones here are going to get a little more challenging. But the top ones, I think most of you are good at that. And also part D, you will miss points on your test if it's asking for the zeros and you don't write your final answer as an ordered pair. So please make sure you remember those. Lots of stars. All right, so back to number 1. If we're solving this, you just need to get x by itself. So subtract the 6. Negative 6 equals negative 3x. Divide by the negative 3. We're going to get x equals 2. However, it wants to know the 0. Where would this cross the x-axis? It would cross the x-axis at 2, 0. That is your final answer. Number 2, same thing. Replace y with 0 and solve for x. This time you have x squared, but that makes a parabola, so you could potentially have 2 different answers since there's 2 sides of the parabola. You need to get the squared by itself, so add the 4. You've got 4 equals x squared. So you should be asking yourself, what squared is 4? Well, to undo the squaring, we square root, and up here, square root of 4 is 2. If you're solving with the equation, though, you need to consider both options. Negative 2 squared is also 4, so positive and negative 2. When you go to write your final answer, please write them as 2 separate points, 2, 0, and negative 2, 0. It would cross the x-axis twice. Number 3, it's an absolute value, so that would be a v-graph. And depending on where your vertex is, this will probably cross the x-axis twice because you have a left and a right side of the v. So you can replace the y with a 0. I know lots of you guys just like to do that, so I'll do it too. And then you want to get the group by itself. The group is the actual absolute value brackets. So add 4. We've got 4 equals the absolute value of x plus 5. So what this x plus 5 is representing something. So the absolute value of it is either 4. Well, it is 4. But the x plus 5 could either be positive 4 or negative 4. So you're going to rewrite this 4 equals x plus 5. And negative 4 will also work. So 2 equations, get x by itself. 4 minus 5, you'll get negative 1. Subtract 5 over here, you'll get negative 9. But again, final answer, it'll cross the x-axis at negative 1, 0 and negative 9, 0. For number 4, this is a parabola. Hopefully you realize that it's going to be way up. You're going to just go straight up 16, and then it opens down because of that negative. So again, replace the y with a 0. Subtract the 16 to get the x squared by itself. When I went to rewrite this, I made it negative 1x squared so that we don't forget that we need to get rid of this negative. So if you divide by negative 1, you're left with 16 equals x squared, and then square root both sides to undo the squaring. So you're going to get positive and negative 4 equals x. And again, please make sure you write them as 2 separate ordered pairs. It crosses the x-axis 2 times. Number 5, again, replace the y with a 0, move over the 4. Negative 4 equals negative 2 times x plus 5. This is a line, hopefully you realized. It has a slope of negative 2, so it's a downhill line. So at some point that will cross the x-axis, and it'll only cross it one time. From here you have options. You could divide by the negative 2. Some people want to distribute, and that would be fine because there's not a squared here, so we could distribute. But just to keep in practice with what we do with quadratics, when you have a squared, we'll divide by the negative 2. So you've got 2 equals x plus 5, and then get x by itself, subtract the 5. So negative 3 is your solution. It will cross the x-axis at negative 3, 0. Number 6, if you were to think about this problem, hopefully you realize that the squared makes it a parabola. The plus 3 means that you're going to go up 1, 2, 3, put your vertex there, and then this is a positive x squared, so it opens up. So hopefully now you're realizing, I'm finding the zeros, which are the x-intercepts. This does not cross the x-axis. It never will. It is strictly above the x-axis. So, do you have any x-intercepts? No. So if you're smart enough to realize that, you could just draw me a quick picture of what it looks like and then put no solution. However, if you didn't realize that and you would just be going about your business like normal, you would plug in 0 for y, subtract the 3. You've got negative 3 equals x squared. You've got to get x by itself, so undo squaring by square rooting. And then you've got the square root of negative 3. And maybe you still haven't noticed. This isn't going to work out. So you go to put in your calculator, and it will tell you domain error, or some kind of error, depending on what kind of calculator you have. And hopefully that, at least, is when you realize, that ain't going to work. There is no solution. There's nothing that you could square and add 3 and get 0. That will never cross the x-axis. Number 7. Number 7, you could try by yourself if you want a little bit of a challenge. You could pause this video and try it. That's your choice. Or not. Plug in 0. You're getting this group by itself. So we've got to get rid of the 2 and this negative. We'll get rid of the 2 first. I'm going to put a negative 1 outside instead of just a negative. Divide by that. Negative 2 divided by negative 1 is positive 2. Then you got the absolute value of x plus 6 is 2. Well, what's inside could either be 2 or negative 2. So this is where we're going to split it up into 2 separate equations. 2 equals x plus 6, and negative 2 equals x plus 6. You need to solve both of those by subtracting 6. Positive 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Negative 2 minus 6 is negative 8. So final solutions, this is a V-graph. You start up 2, it goes back 6, it opens down, so it's going to cross the x-axis 2 different times. Once at negative 4, 0, and one further over at negative 8, 0. And the last one, number 8. It's the last of this type. You still have 9 and 10. But on number 8, replace the y with a 0. And again, try to think about what these are. This is a squared, so it's a parabola. It opens down, and it starts all the way up at 81. So I doubt any of you want to graph this. So definitely one of the advantages to being able to solve either way is that you don't have to graph this. You can solve it algebraically instead. So subtract the 81. Negative 81 equals negative 1 times x plus 1 quantity squared. Get rid of the negative 1. Again, don't distribute because you've got a squared here. You can't distribute into something squared. Divide by negative 1. But 81 equals quantity x plus 1 squared. You need to get rid of the squared and the 1. Remember, you're working right closer to the x. So the squared goes first. And this is where you're squaring 81 in an equation. So you should have 2 equations from here. You're going to have 9 equals x plus 1 and negative 9 equals x plus 1. Get x by itself by subtracting 1 everywhere. Positive 9 minus 1 is 8. Negative 9 minus 1 is negative 10. Final answers, this is going to cross the x-axis at 8, 0 and negative 10, 0. And just in case you're confused where the 0 comes from, I guess I didn't address this earlier. You're plugging in 0 for y, and when you solve, you get x as that. So your y was 0, and when we solved, we got x as 8. All right. The last 2 questions, hopefully you realize these are a little bit different. These are just review questions. They just added them at the bottom here. So you're simply solving for x. It doesn't ask you for anything specifically, so just solve for x. Add the 6. 2 times quantity x minus 5, quantity squared is 18. The 2 needs to go, so is the negative 5 and the squared, but the 2's furthest away, it's outside of the grouping. So divide by the 2. You get the quantity x minus 5 squared is 9. And then you got a square root. So we've got x minus 5. Square root of 9 is 3. And negative 3. Both of them you're going to solve by getting x by itself. So you need to add 5. So here we'll get x is 8. And here we'll get x is 2. This one had no y, so you're just solving for x. So you can just write it as x equals 8, x equals 2. You don't have to worry about writing it as an ordered pair. All right, and our last one, same exact idea. You need to get rid of the 3, the squared, and the negative 4. But you're starting furthest out and working your way in. So the negative 4 is not part of the group, so it goes first. We've got the quantity x plus 3 squared equals 25. Square root, square root. X plus 3 equals positive and negative 5. So this is where we've got to split it up into 2 equations. Subtract the 3. We get 2. If you subtract the 3 from negative 5, we'll get negative 8. That is the last page of your 10F notes. So please go ahead and start your homework. Get that done before you do anything else. Have a good day.